This is Alliance War Season 61. A new season begins with new tactics and new rivals. Champions will rise. The battleground evolves with every step. Who will adapt? Who will survive? Every battle counts. Every win matters. This is Alliance War. And welcome back, champions. It is war number 3, and well, we're going to be doing something a little bit different this war. This war, we're going to be on path 6. We're still bringing in Ironheart. She is consistent throughout, no matter what I do, I think. But we're also going to throw in Bastion and Nico on this one. Bringing in Bastion this time around because I do have a lot of global defenders that I'm going to face, so I wanted a tactic attacker because, well, it is a pain in the butt to take on the tactic defenders without the appropriate attacker. You'll see that later on in this video. So here, ideally, I would use Ironheart on this fight because she can, kind of bypass the miss. Here, I'm just going to have to remember every 10 hits, like right there, the falter's going to pop up and I just have to back away. And, well, kind of comes to bite me here in a second. Here, we throw the special 2. Now, we're going to bait out his special 2. And you'll see here, I completely forgot about the 10 hits already. And I kind of triggered the falter, threw the special, none of it counted, and it was just, well, it didn't go very well. But here, now we get our special 1 in. And there, of course, because of so many hits on Bastion's special 1, we triggered the falter again at the end of that special 1, took a couple hits, wasn't very pretty, but we got the job done. Only lost a little bit of health, and we get to move on to the second fight. And for that second fight, we've got a Bishop here. And this is decent placement for Bishop. We're going to be using Ironheart here. And it's decent because I'm going to put a bleed on Bishop. And, well, Bishop does not like to have bleeds on him. So, it's not really going to change how I fight this. It's just going to change that I'm going to take a little bit of damage. We're going to do our standard medium, light, mediums. We're going to throw special 1s. We're going to lock on those ruptures for a little bit. Get that nice little pause going, and we're just going to kind of repeat. Ideally, I will push Bishop to a special 2, but you can see there the amount of health loss I'm taking just because he's got those bleeds on him. It's like I said, it's good placement. I am not worried about dying per se with Ironheart here. I'm just worried about how much damage I'm going to take and how much I'm going to have to heal up. That's really what it all boils down to here. Typically on this node, if I'm taking it, I can heal up. That's not going to be the case this time around. Here we go. We are going to get a couple more hits, though. We're going to finish them off, and, you can see we did lose over 30% health just because, Bishop being Bishop with a bleed on him. And we jump ahead here to Section 2. First fight up in Section 2 is going to be this Arnim Zola. And this fight here has fisticuffs on it, so neither champion for the first 30 seconds of this fight can trigger buffs or debuffs. Once again, decent placement here for Zola because you do like to parry him in order to be able to knock him down or be good enough to counter his heavy with a heavy. I'm not, so I do like the parry. So we're going to slow play this at the very beginning. Just really go kind of as slow as we can. There, unfortunately, I didn't counter the heavy. I hit into his block, so I threw his counter up a little bit more. Now you can see it's up to where he's almost ready to put me to sleep. So I'm going to really slow play it here. We're just going to dex away a little bit. The fisticuffs is almost gone. Now the fisticuffs gone. Now I can parry. And then I can heavy. I meant to do that there. Somehow my heavy got kind of relayed as a medium. Not the end of the world. Recognized it, backed away, kind of reset. We do push him to a special 2 there. His counter is at 13, so we're in good shape. But to be safe, let's just drop another heavy, drop that counter down even some more. He's going to throw his special 2 here. We're going to go in with a combo. I was kind of hoping I could combo into the striker, into a heavy, and have enough power to throw the special 1 right there. Didn't work out that way. So we're just going to get another parry. 2 hits. We're going to throw the special 1. And this does decent damage. Each one of those red numbers going up there is 13,000. Zola is just a a pain in the butt to fight. He is slow, but with Bastion, it is fairly safe as long as you just kind of play around the node and play around a lot of what he can do. And I'm not baiting special 2s simply because I don't want to take the little bit of damage that comes from it, and we're just going to kind of play this safe. We've got him down to 1%, and there he goes. He just kind of drops dead on his own, realizing that, hey, there was no chance of him coming back to win that fight. All right, and for the fourth fight, we've got this Apocalypse. Once again, decent placement here because of the prowess that builds up on there. His specials can really hurt. Typically, once again, I would probably use Ironheart here, but just to be safe, and so I don't push him to a special 3, I'm going to use a champion with a few less debuffs so I can control the Conflictor a little bit more. There I trigger it right away, and well, I did Dex and just kind of got hit in the face, which is fine. So here, now we're just going to try and bait out a special. We get the special, Dex out at the end of it, perfectly fine. And, we're just kind of going to drop a special 1 here. Primary reason for doing that right here, instead of going to the special 2, is I just wanted space on the map. That's pretty much all it is. There we get a nice little intercept in, and now we're just going to bait out a special 2 again. The other reason I'm not using Ironheart here is the plan was for this to be maybe the last fight I used Bastion. I was thinking other fights, thinking other things, and one of them wasn't going to be using Bastion again. There, we do push him to about 2.5 bars of power. Now we have to be a little bit careful, but he does decide he wants to throw his special. And now we just kind of continue on with the whole process here. This we were hoping is going to kill. It better kill. It's going to push him really close to red, but there we are. We finished off that big old Apocalypse. And, Path 6, don't normally take it. Pretty clean on the way through. And now in War is where the fun really begins. We start taking on the minis. First mini up is going to be this rooted Cassandra Nova. You can see here kind of taking my time, kind of refreshing my brain on what her awakened ability was and what, making sure she wasn't incinerate immune. All that kind of fun stuff. Just, double checking, triple checking. And, this is an Ironheart fight. You guys know it. I know it. The main thing here is we just have to be careful not to interrupt her heavy, and then we can't parry until we get that tracking buff on. Now we can do some parries. There, we're just kind of waiting out the route. And what did I say earlier about not interrupting her heavy? Well, there's what happens when you try it. So here we are, nice little special. And ideally, I'm going to bait and Dex her special 1s. It's fairly easy to do. And there you go. You can see there, nice little Dex. I had forgotten at the end of the special, she kind of does that Professor X pause, so you can kind of go right in and counter. So you'll see that I kind of just sat back there and said, hey, what is she doing? Here's another special 1. And I did it again. I'm like, hey, what is she doing? And then, we have to wait out the route. So a little bit slow there. Not the end of the world, just kind of slowing things down. I'm not too terribly concerned in this fight. Ironheart can handle this fight very, very well. Biggest danger is getting hit by one of those specials. And as long as we continue to dex the special 1s, I am feeling really, really good about my, ability to handle this fight. It's not the fastest fight in the world. I've said it many, many times. With Ironheart, it's not, in a lot of cases, a speed run. It is more, consistent damage. And here, also, because I'm not able to hit as much as I'd like, having to bait specials, having to wait out the route, things like that, the incinerates don't build up nearly as high. So you'll see, like right now, I've only got 7 incinerates on. In a typical fight that's gone on this long, I'll have 30 plus. So, if I had to take this fight again, would I do something different? Honestly, I'm not sure. I think I would probably still take Ironheart and maybe just fight a little bit more aggressive to speed it up some. But there we are, roughly 2 minutes. But, it's a full yellow bar finish and a full attack bonus. So I'm very, very pleased. And we move on to the next fight. And for that next fight, I was going to skip this and jump up to the hazard shipped island, but on the way by, I was like, well, you know what? Bastion can handle Mixmaster. Yeah, you know, we'll sit here. We'll do this with Bastion. Not a problem. We'll parry heavy, get the pursuit buff on us, and then, you know, can't miss. We can do normal combos, just parry and go the whole way through it. You can see here, I'm dropping health potions on there. You know, like I said, I wasn't originally planning on doing this, but, you know, figured why not? You know, let's see if we can do 9 fights instead of just 8 this war. And, well, we forgot about one thing. We completely forgot about the obstinate charge. And you can see there, I parried thinking it was a parry, let go, and he hit my block. Here, he's not throwing a heavy. There he evades. You know, not the greatest start in the world. You get a special one-off. I'm just trying to get this guy to give me some type of opening that I can get a, you know, some type of parry or some type of heavy in. There's the evade. Now he throws a special one. Now, there we go. Now we can counter with a heavy. Now we have the pursuit buff on. Now we don't have to worry about him evading us, and we can do normal combos. That's all I wanted the entire fight. Just the ability to do a normal 5-hit combo. Took a lot of hits that, you know, really, really dumb. If I would have remembered the obstinate charge, we would have been okay. You know, the spacing on heavy countering his special one is pretty easy. So as long as I can kind of keep that up, we're in good shape here. You know, it is, you know, closer than I'd like it to be. I took a lot of hits I don't like, but there we are. And that's the other problem I always have on nodes. You know, you do that nice little heavy counter, the special one, and well, they resist. So there you go. I am down very, very low just because the game decided, hey, you know what? That heavy counter that you thought you could do, nah, you really can't do that all the time. I'm just going to do a heavy resist. That's always fun. But, you know, once again, it's now I'm just kind of playing very, very cautious, very, very safe. We're down to 24% health. Not ideal. You know, he's almost dead. I just need an opening. If the game would only give me an opening, there we go. So there's his special one. Pursuit was up. We're going to meet him, take him out. Okay, so next time, I'll probably be more prepared for a fight. I wasn't planning on taking it. We took it. We cleared it. We're moving on. All right, and now here's where the fun in this war really, really begins. I know I said it begins on Boss Islands, but this is where it really begins. And, well, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm looking at my paths, I'm looking at all the fights I can take. I see Jean Grey sitting there. I'm thinking, wow, man, Jean Grey on an Incinerate node, this is perfect. I can do this fight, no problem. Let me in there, let me at it. Ironheart eats Jean Grey for lunch. Okay, so I kind of wait out the initial empathetic lock that's on there so that I can get my armor up so that I can be Incinerate immune. Now we have to wait out the shock phase, and we're okay. You know, no problems at all. Now we can go in. You know, not having any problems at all. You know, we're doing everything we want. Oh, crap. There is the global. Okay, so now we just kind of have to wait. Okay, the global's off. Okay, we're back at it. Oh, now she's in shock mode. But you know what? We're going to throw this special 2 anyway. I want to do some damage. You know, we didn't get too many shocks on us there. Now we're going to wait out. I did notice the unstoppable, so we're kind of waiting it out. I could do parry mediums, which probably next time around I would do that. Here we throw our special 1. You know, okay, we're back on track. We just need to bait her special. She's unstoppable. Guess what I missed? The fact that she was unstoppable, so we take some hits in the block there. She throws another special. She's in shock mode, so I can't hit her. You're kind of getting the picture here. The majority of this fight is times when you just can't hit them. There, I messed the timing up on the heavy decks, you know, and there we are. Unstoppable again on the 5th hit of a combo. And now I'm just throwing a special saying, please connect, get away from me, back up, something, give me room. Here, you know, she's in shock. I'm down low. I can't do anything. I've got, you know, her debuffs on me. I'm ticking down. Here she throws a heavy. Hey, I finally can counter. And guess what? She was unstoppable. And I didn't notice it because I spent 20 minutes dancing. And well, there we are. First death of the season. You know, not that fun. Not, you know, the worst fight I've ever had. Not the best fight I've ever had. we're going to toss on a revive. I figured at some point I would die. Just wasn't a good feeling. Here, we're going to use a couple team health potions. Even here, I was thinking, well, maybe I should go in with Bastion. Bastion is global. I just have to be able to knock her down and, take her out that way. Here, well, we go back in with Ironheart. We're like, okay, the first half of that fight was perfectly fine. We didn't have any problems. Here, I'm just doing one hits. And then, of course, I miss a parry. So we get the neuroshocks on there. And, now we're doing a couple hits here. We're just trying to get some incinerates on there. Start getting her shield down so we can do some damage. Here, now, she's in shock mode. We're just doing one-hit combos. We're backing away. We're doing all that we can do to kind of get some damage in there. And then, of course, she goes unstoppable in the middle of a hit. And, well, you can kind of see where this is going. And now I'm trying to throw my striker to get in there. And here, I'm just trying to get some space, trying to do anything. I'm almost dead. And she goes unstoppable in the middle of the special. And, well, my face has been wrecked. She has smacked it. And I'm just going to die from the neuros. And, well, there's death number 2. So, yeah, that was fun. That was great here. We're just going to go ahead and buy up a bunch of revives. Hopefully we don't need to use them at all the rest of the year. But if we do, we might as well have a full inventory of them there. I don't, I wait till they're empty to buy them. Here, now I'm thinking, maybe I should be smart. Maybe I should just go in with Bastion. We're going to have to deal with the shock and the incinerate because, well, that is part of this node. So here, I'm thinking what I'm going to do is just try to parry heavy. Keep knocking her down so that we don't have to worry about the tactic. I figure if I can get to one special one, that's really all I need in this fight. And you can see here, I start hitting more combos. I'm trying to play around the reverse controls, and that's the other part. And the other reason for the heavy is don't have to worry about reverse controls too much when you're heavying. There's 2 hits into a special one. I didn't get too many debuffs on me. We finished the fight off. Going forward, I'm not sure who I will use on that node, but man, that's a pain in the butt fight. All right, now we get to sit back, we get to relax, we get to take a fight that is a little bit more fun. I think, Nico here is by far the best counter to Dark Phoenix, and, just have to throw the pre-fights on, make sure we get the buff immunity at the start, make sure we throw on the adrenaline healing at the start. We might as well. We're only going to be using Nico for this one fight. And, I've said before, Nico's not very fast. Well, she's not very fast unless she's fighting Dark Phoenix. And you can see here, this fight is going to go pretty darn well. When I'm using Nico against Dark Phoenix, I would prefer if Dark Phoenix would throw her special ones. There's no damage involved in that. It puts another buff that doesn't take place and triggers the buff immunity, throwing on a poison. So, I'm kind of hoping I can rinse and repeat that and that she never, wants to be stingy. Here, you can see we push into another special 1. We're at our special 2. We're going to drop it. And, she's almost dead. We're 40 seconds in. Still not the fastest fight in the world, but Dark Phoenix is one of those defenders that's never going to be a real fast fight. And here we are, last little special 1 from her. Perfect fight there for me. Nice way to recover after that Jean Grey. And we have one more fight in this war. I did heal up Ironheart, and we are going to go in here. We're going to activate the Rupture because, well, you don't want to put incinerates on Onslaught here. So really just going in now. Plan here is we're not ever going to parry. Don't really want to parry Onslaught anyway. I understand the placement of Onslaught on this node. Here I'm thinking, well, what do I do? Let me go ahead and throw on a regen because I am going to take some chip damage. Might as well. It's going to expire if I don't use it. So we're just going to throw it on there. And here, like I said, you don't ever want to parry Onslaught anyway. The placement makes sense because of the polka dot power. Not a lot of champions are going to be able to put debuffs on there. The brute force, his specials take so long, and you're having to wait for him then to be able to counter it if you're playing safe. Yes, I know I can dex it in or can go in after the third hit of his special 1 and then dex and counter the special 1. I don't do it in war. I mess it up entirely too often, and I just don't want to die that way. So, I'll take a little bit of brute force damage is what I'm saying. So here, now we're just waiting on him to throw a special, and you can see the brute force triggers right there. Special still going. I still have to worry about getting a heavy or some type of opening out of him. There we go. So you can see we do take a lot of chip damage fighting him on this node, and that's kind of why. If you mess up the dex on the special 1 or something like that, you get all his neuros plus brute force plus other things. It's not a good day when all that happens. So here we get a nice clean dex. We're at a special 2. He's going to throw his heavy. I'm going to throw the special 2. We're going to do some decent damage. We're back up to a special 2 because I did throw on, because I was using so many tech champions in so many fights this war. I do have the tech boost on. Here, now we just need to do a 3-hit combo. We're going to throw our special 2, and that should be the end of Onslaught and the end of this war. And with that, I had my first 2 deaths of the season. It is unfortunate that it happened, but it's not the end of the world. You can see here, I am at 27 kills. So 3 wars, 9 fights in each war so far this season. Very, very nice. Deaths, I am at 2. And, we're going to try to hopefully clean up on that as we go through. Very, very happy still with the start of the season with a new tactic and all in there. Only dying twice through 3 wars isn't the worst, isn't the best either, but if you like this video, please hit that like, subscribe, feel free to leave me a comment down below, and until the next one, take care all.